Good evening and welcome to Movers and Makers, episode number 9, brought to you by Low Key Arts here in Hot Springs National Park, Arkansas, and made possible with the generous support of the Gail Pratt Fraser Trust, to whom we extend our deep gratitude. I am your host, Sonny Kay, Executive Director of Low Key Arts. My guests tonight are arguably the most unique and influential hardcore band to ever emerge from Southern California. Bobby Bray, Joseph Karam, Gabe Serbian, Justin Pearson and Gabe Serbian are the Locust. And to say that I'm thrilled to have them here on Movers and Makers would be a severe understatement. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the program. Bobby, Joey, Justin, Gabe, thank you for being here.
Thanks, Sonny.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Unmute. It's a pleasure, Sonny. Thank you for having us.
I would love to spend some time talking about the history of the band briefly and the context into which you guys emerged in the mid-90s. What you've been up to for the past, 2 decades or so, and what you have all been up to recently as people and individuals struggling through this pandemic, and artists being stifled and very creative and prolific people. I'm very curious to know how this has affected you guys. So I think we should probably just start at the beginning. And to my knowledge, the best of my knowledge, Locust has existed since 1994. Is that right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Roughly. There were a number of lineup changes in the early years, which ultimately resulted in the 4 people that we have assembled here today, gelling in roughly around 2001, 2002, if my memory serves me correctly. And
I'm sorry, say that. I think it's earlier than that.
Earlier than that?
Was it 97, 98, something like that?
I think he means after Dave left, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I'm sorry, Joey. Joe, you joined the band, Joey. I guess relatively late, right? You were of the 4 of you guys, you were the last to join the band, but Dave was in the band for a couple of years as well. Right. So you guys were. I suppose we have some illustrations. I guess I could use to just make the point here. So this is the very first lineup of Locust, if I'm not mistaken, and I have a caption here. I think with everyone's names, if I'm getting them right. And
That actually was, I think, the second iteration, because in the very beginning, Dylan and Dave Warsaw were in the band, and so then this would have been after that.
Right. So you guys with that lineup with Dylan and Dave, that version of the band released the split 10-inch with Man is the Bastard, I think. Is that right? And then
and the split 5-inch with Jenny Piccolo.
Okay.
As well.
Okay. And then within a short period of time, that transitioned to the lineup we just saw, and then that very quickly transitioned to this lineup with Dave Astor playing drums, and Gabe, you're playing guitar at this point.
That's right.
And this picture was taken when we were all in Japan together in 1999 on your first tour there. And Dave was in the band for just about another year or so after this, if I'm not mistaken, and then it kind of condensed down into this quartet. Is that right?
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
It's hard to recall some of the finer details, but yeah, that sounds about right. Like I joined the band, played guitar for maybe a year and a half, 2 maybe, and then then in Europe, I think I started doing sound checks for Dave on drums because he didn't like to play drums for sound checks. And then a short while after that, Dave was saying that he wanted to quit. And then I was like, hey, dudes, remember the sound checks? And then it all worked out.
So what was your first instrument, Gabe? Was it drums or was it guitar?
It was like a clarinet.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then I played a violin for a little while. I was in elementary school, and then when I was in 6th grade, that's when I started playing drums.
Let's talk about that. Before we go any further, are you guys all from musical families?
No, not me.
Not really. My mom played
A little bit.
My stepfather is a jazz drummer, so when I showed interest in drums, there was a drum set, and he taught me a rock beat, and just let me go from there. Yeah, and my mom was always just super supportive. Like, she always wanted me to, play music. So,
and your siblings are musicians as well, is that right?
No,
they're not. Okay.
No.
Joey, what were you saying?
My mother plays piano a little bit, as does my sister, but mostly informally. There's always music in the house, so music is certainly important to the family, but didn't really have a strong musical background, I'd say.
Okay. And Bobby?
Actually, I had a half sister named Nancy, and she devoted her life to music, and so she was much older. And when I was younger, she would, every couple times she'd stop by, but it really made a sort of lasting impression on me that you could, if you decided to, you could devote your life to music, and that's what she did. And she actually she had a band called Hawks and Eagles. It was her and her husband, but they played cowboy gypsy music, and so anyway, it had a really lasting impression on me.
Incredible.
As a child.
Didn't you just recently get a bunch of her instruments?
Oh yeah, she a few years ago she actually passed away, and so her husband had passed away before her, and so they had accumulated a bunch of instruments, and so I ended up with some of them. In fact, there's one behind me. It's a Turkish saz, which is freaking awesome. Actually, it's one of my favorite instruments now.
It's a saw?
Saz. It's S-A-Z. It's Turkish.
Okay.
It's fucking awesome.
All right. So Locust kind of gelled, I suppose you could say, formed from the ashes of a handful of other local San Diego area bands in the mid-90s, merging into a scene that kind of centered around the Che Cafe, which is a kind of a collective venue located on the grounds of the University of California, UCSD. As you know, someone sort of an outsider to San Diego, someone who got to experience the Che in little pieces here and there, passing through on tour, seemed like a very politicized place and a very like a real stronghold of DIY culture, do-it-yourself culture, and real hands-on kind of influential behavior amongst bands and activists and a huge community of kids who seem to be forming bands left and right all the time, and Locust were a part of that very fruitful thing that was happening there. I wonder if you could talk about sort of the context, the band in the context of the Che and the other bands that you guys had done at the time. And Justin, you're coming out of Struggle. I'm not sure if anybody else had been in bands that had been necessarily that active, but I just want to try and put it all in a context of the time. It's been quite a long time.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as the Che is concerned, I mean, I think I probably went there when I was maybe 13. So I don't know what year that is. But I mean, I remember like the first show I went to see there, it was just littered with neo-Nazis, which is kind of interesting because it is this like sort of anarchist, like sort of I don't know, like leftist progressive entity or venue, in a sense, but San Diego had a large issue with I think neo-Nazis and skinheads in specific in the mid to late 90s, early 90s, I guess too, because of like White Aryan Resistance being in Fallbrook and stuff. So they were recruiting down here. So it was pretty violent and pretty shitty, but that was the place where you would want to go to see bands. And I mean, I was lucky to see all kinds of crazy stuff that I think would obviously never be able to play there, nowadays. But it definitely set me on a path. And I think, yeah, my first band, Struggle, played a handful of shows there. And I think that's when I first started hanging out with Bobby too, because we went to high school together, which was still during, when I was in Struggle. So we were already friends before the band started.
Okay.
And then of course, to kind of jump ahead a little bit further, by playing shows with Struggle and then Swing Kids and stuff, I met Gabe and Joey. Joey would book shows not for Struggle, I don't think, but for Swing Kids and other various bands up in Huntington Beach. And so that was how we were friends. And obviously with Gabe, it was just a matter of time before we became friends. So I think that's how that all started.
Yeah, I met you from Dave, because I was in Cattle Decapitation with Dave at the time.
But even before that, I think you were before even Cattle existed.
There was a moment you guys were. Someone asked me if I wanted to play drums in Crimson Curse. So and then that's when I became friends with you. And I remember the first time I really talked to you was at the Soul Kitchen. Mm-hmm. Remember that place?
Yeah.
And you're just like, I was going to pay to get in, and you're just like, "Oh, hey, Gabe," and put your arm around me and walked me in. And I was like, "Oh, rad!" But I was like, "Oh, it's nice to meet you, man." And like,
yeah.
Do you guys think that the violence in San Diego was legendary, kind of even in the 80s, well before our time, like sort of these legendary, brawls at Battalion of Saints shows and those kind of things. Do you think the presence of the clearly strong military presence in San Diego, very conservative, Republican stronghold, right on the border, in so many ways, kind of represents the larger struggle taking place across the southwestern part of the U.S. and indeed the whole U.S. Do you think that context is why places like the Che in particular are there in San Diego, and why they've persevered as long as they have, and sort of provided meaning for generation after generation of kids to sort of resist what's going on around them?
Probably to a certain degree. San Diego kind of has a reputation for being kind of conservative, but it is still in California. Right. So thinking about other cities and other states, I think there might be more of that sort of like contrast and struggle and sort of like need for that. But certainly in a city as big as San Diego, you're going to have jerks. You're going to have that kind of contrast, and if that inspires you and if that causes a sort of reaction anywhere, then it could certainly happen here, and I think it has. And I think probably the Che, it being able to survive, so many times the university tried to shut it down, and it's gone through so many like save the Che situations, and every time I'm like, oh,
it's still functioning, right? It's still there.
Pre-pandemic, yeah,
it was there a year ago.
But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of because I do think about that about San Diego, but then when I think about other places, I'm like, oh, it's so much of a greater contrast, regarding that stuff.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe somebody else has a different opinion.
I mean, again, like I think the neo-Nazi issue was a thing, but going back a little bit further, I mean, we had the song "Kill Roger Hedgecock," but Roger Hedgecock was San Diego mayor. That was, he was like kind of the person that started to light up the border protests, where they'd have all these like, I guess, white nationalists go to the border of Mexico and sort of like and tell people to bring lights and their reflective shit and like light up the border to like as some sort of like protest against illegal immigration. So I think that like. Which is interesting because we're still seeing, currently or with the previous administration, like that obvious rhetoric, So I think that was something that was happening in San Diego, which kind of pushed, again, I think the polarization of the city, and I think it also helped in a sense, gave like artists, this sort of need to explore other avenues because we didn't have it set up really easily, I mean, even like. Kind of going and referencing like Joey booking at the Huntington Beach Library, like, like playing shows at a library just seemed like just an odd thing to do, you know. I mean, some of the shit we would see there was just you're just like, whoa, this is in a library, a public library, you know. So it's kind of similar style. I mean, I suppose I think Huntington Beach is probably very similar to San Diego, but you know, there was this sort of like, like white nationalism and just kind of just the military presence, and I think it just made it for a tense situation. And to put it simply, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the Che and speaking of the Huntington Beach Library shows, something endemic to both of those, of course, is the all ages aspect, and that was something that the Locust adhered to religiously for a long time. And I wonder, you guys are older now, and you know, things have changed drastically in the world. What are your feelings about that now? And once things open up and you guys start performing again, will that remain an issue?
If it's like if we're playing in a city where you know, you can, or that I guess wouldn't allow underage people to be in a venue that serves alcohol, I don't think we'd play it. If there was a all age option, you know,
Right.
I don't think we'd want to break our tradition, really. Me personally, I'd rather just give everyone an opportunity to go.
Mm-hmm.
I think in a lot of ways, this band has been about inclusivity and really sort of reaching a wide demographic. And we've had young people at our shows and we've had older people at our shows.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of feel like it speaks to the spirit of what, you know, the band has been about in a lot of ways, and just being able to sort of reach people across generations has sort of been important to us.
Mm-hmm.
Not sort of, it has been important to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it might be a bit of a betrayal of that sense of inclusivity if we were not to do that. I mean, we've certainly done things that were, I guess, somewhat age restrictive, maybe like 16 plus in places that didn't necessarily allow all ages shows, you know. Mm-hmm. But I certainly think that's something we've always strived for, and I don't necessarily see that as changing. At least, you know, for this band, I feel like it's certainly important.
Cool. Thank you for that, Joey. Something that always amused me with you guys early on and has continued through the years was something that I felt was kind of like an antagonistic attitude that was kind of I don't know, established between the band and certain audiences. Not every audience, but there'd be places where you guys would perform where it would be you'd kind of have, you know, hecklers, clearly fans who've come to the show to support you guys and clearly enjoy the music, but also again this antagonistic vibe. I wonder if you know, I wonder what your feelings are about that, and if you could you know, if you've got any thoughts about where that comes from.
Anyone want to take that one?
Do you?
No, I mean, it's come up a bunch, you know. I mean, I think like it was just I don't know, maybe because we were touring with Ginny Piccolo and stuff. It was like there was a lot of banter that kind of just seemed normal. And then I just remember, like, for us, the four of us specifically, at some point we just got fucking fed up with the audience like being dicks, and just kind of decided to bridge all of our music to where when our set started and to where it ended, there was no time for any kind of dialogue unless it was controlled, you know. We had something to say. I remember that being like the only real sort of you know, like, not statement, but like movement on ourselves artistically to say like, all right, well, that's more about the music than like the audience participation. Because no offense to the audience, but it wasn't about them trying to, you know, ridicule us. It got really boring.
I think there were different classes of heckling too. We'd get people that would go to shows just to purely fuck with us, and then we'd have people that would heckle us because they didn't know what they were getting in for, and they just completely hated it. But as to piggyback off what Justin was saying, like that kind of like people would talk shit about us with these, I don't know, just stereotypes or whatever, and it was just fucking stupid. And if someone's talking shit, you're going to talk back. We're not going to just let someone say some bullshit. And I don't know, that whole thing of us, like, I think that's what led to our uniforms.
Sure.
Really, in a way, because we're one thing.
Sorry,
in a band, we're just like one thing instead of 4 guys from San Diego that dress like they're from Southern California, and people fucking care about that stupid shit. Right. You know what I mean?
Three guys from San Diego.
I said Southern California. I corrected myself.
Yeah, I think you guys are really, injecting a sense of fun and a sense of I guess playfulness, if you want to call it that, and upsetting the sort of status quo of something that was already, especially by the mid '90s, very regimented, very traditionalized, very masculine and uptight. Yeah, you name it. I'm looking at the comments people have been making.
I see Alex.
Yeah, Alex is here.
He's at every show. He's even here.
He's at every show. Thank you for being here, Alex. Steven Ansible says, it seems like hardcore bro dudes were intimidated by the way you guys looked. And I think that's a good, I think that's a true observation. I think that could certainly be the case in some places. So yeah, you mentioned the uniforms, and that kind of leads to my next topic here. I guess by about 2001, the uniforms had sort of begun taking stage, so to speak, no pun intended. If you, to my memory, the first step towards that was this kind of makeshift gorilla vest look, right? That was kind of an accidental discovery, and proved to be fortuitous, I think, and carried you guys at least some way along that path. And then our mutual friend Ben Warwas began creating true custom garmentry for you guys that I think is relatively comfortable to wear in hot, sweaty situations.
And easy to see through.
Oh, really? Yeah. Wet Locust contest. Do you think that do you think adopting the uniforms has put more or less focus on the music?
Less focus on the music, I'd say, in some respects. I think it's an easy thing to just pick at anyhow, the way we look, and it's in some ways it's kind of taken a lot of the disparate sort of comments about how we looked and focused them into one sort of thing. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like when someone hears about the band that I'm around, I feel like the first thing that they might recognize just are the outfits, not necessarily the music and what it sounds like, but that'll be their first comment if they're sort of loosely familiar with us. So maybe it does steal a little steam away from the music at times.
Sorry, Gabe, were you going to say something?
Yeah, but I forgot.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for presenting a kind of beyond androgynous. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's kind of almost anonymous, I guess, kind of appearance. Sure. Makes you kind of seem a little more drone or clone-like, a little more Locust-like, I guess, in a sense, which is probably just a convenient byproduct of that.
Another convenient byproduct is a lot of people don't know what we look like. So we could be at a show, and like there's one time I remember we opened for the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, and after we played, I went to the main restroom. And I heard these guys just talking so much shit about our band. And I was like standing right there. It was pretty great, because I didn't even know it was me.
That's useful.
It certainly has helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's been 2 times where like I was going to get my ass beat severely, and I was so grateful that we had worn masks because the people did not know who I was. And both times they confronted me like, "Where the fuck is the bass player?" I'm like,
"We're over there." And then they'd see one of us, and then oh, he's over there. And like pointing at the other. It worked.
That's amazing. Let's talk about your records a little bit. You guys were infamous early on for crazy looking products, physical packaging that rewrote the rule book a little bit. I mean, you guys have picture records and shaped records, every color imaginable. Is there anything that you guys have not done that you want to do?
I would like to do one that's filled with liquid. They made like a Friday the 13th one or something where the vinyl has liquid in it. I would love to do one not with a blood color, but like, you know, maybe like some kind of insect, something or whatever, you know, black. I don't know. Oh,
that would have been good for the body fluid themed one, the Airborne Radar Split. That would have been great.
Yeah, I mean, part of that stuff that we did was thanks to you, Sonny. I mean, I think you were willing to do stupid shit, and we were psyched on that. You know, I mean, GSL was like, I think we were like already into, you know, like we did the 5-inch picture disc, which is pretty dumb and stuff. But then like once we teamed up with you and like, you know, the first single or first EP we released on GSL, like I think you've pressed that thing on, you know, 50 different colors, and it was cool. Like it just was fun and another element of the art, you know, like let's do this or that, and then the puddle thing, and then the puzzle one, and like just whatever ridiculous shit we could come up with seemed to kind of work. And probably partially why GSL folded, you know, kept manufacturing all this crap and weren't able to sell it for what it should have been sold for.
That's
I can't remember. Sonny, can you remember telling us that, no, it's too expensive or anything like that?
I don't think those words ever passed my lips.
Like we're all like triple gatefold, you know, like just all this crazy shit, and it always happened.
Well, you know, I mean, that's true, but that, you know, that there's a luxury to being you know, working with a group who have a built-in audience and an adoring audience at that, who are eager to snap it up every record. You know what I mean? Every new thing. And I think you know, if anything, I've come to appreciate that more in the years since. That's a rare and unique situation. And I'm just so glad that I was able to meet you guys halfway, so to speak, and that we could do that stuff. You know, they're really cool artifacts, man. I'm so proud of every one of those things.
Thanks for never saying no.
I think we've been in good company in that way. People who around us who've just sort of, I don't know, were willing to do kind of crazy things. I don't think, you know, yours and the band's proximity to Erica Records at the time, you know, I'm sure that helped a great deal, because Liz would have interesting sort of concepts in mind, and we'd get to be the guinea pigs for that, and that was really cool.
Absolutely. And we probably couldn't be having this discussion without mentioning Liz and Erica Records, who were very, very good to us for quite a long time, and actually still are.
Mm-hmm.
Erland, our good buddy Erland from Oslo, Norway, is here with us.
Hey, what's up?
All right.
Your androgyny was inspiring and made its way over here to Norway, which ended up pissing off a bunch of jocks here as well. So thank you.
Good. That's great.
Pissing off jocks the world over.
It still makes me feel good.
Bombay Cardenas III. This music definitely sounds like it comes from a Locust, so I believe the uniforms make sense. In my opinion, the uniforms stand with the music.
Yeah, so dude. He gets it. That's a person that gets it right there.
Damn right. It's nice. It must be nice to know that it's registering with people. May have taken a couple decades, but nonetheless. So you guys have effectively your last record, New Erections, your last full length LP, which I have an illustration of, I suppose, here for the sake of. Let me find my. There we go. This record came out in 2007. And
old erections.
Oh man, I left an S off of there. My bad. That's
you want to pause the show?
Sloppy day of work, my friends. My bad. But that was the last full length that came out. Have you released an EP since? You've released your Peel sessions in the time since then, is that right?
The Peel sessions, and then we also released the remixed and remastered GSL stuff as well.
That's right. That came out as a compilation album on Anti.
Yeah.
And I would say you've kind of like touring has continued happening, but a lot more sporadically over the last few years. Gabe, you're a dad now, and you have a different set of responsibilities than you used to.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's ruined my life, but it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, kind of thing, you know.
Are your kids Locust fans?
No, I don't think they really care.
No. What about any of Katie's bands?
Oh, my daughter likes her band, the Dum Dum Girls, but that's about it. Them all. Yeah, that fucks up my whole situation for touring. But we've worked out some scenarios that will work, so we can go out and do shows.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Just and the other thing is I'm an old man now, and I don't think I'd want to be in a van for a very long time. I enjoy the finer things in life, like hot water, clean bed, clean clothes,
sleep.
Yeah. Sleep. Well, actually, no, I sleep better nowadays on tour than ever.
Oh, kids, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you miss the touring that you guys used to do? I mean, it used to be incessant, right? You guys were toured probably like on the road like 6 months out of the year.
Definitely
for years.
It was great when I was young, personally, to get all that shit out of my system, because we went really hard, and it's all we wanted to do. I think it's all we really cared about. And you were there for most of it, and those were like, looking back, those are like some of the greatest times. And, I was watching that Arab on Radar thing that came out the other day, that video or that little documentary. And he's saying that they've gone so many places that they would have never gone. And that's totally my situation. I would have probably still never been to Europe or, any of that shit, or even gone as far into Mexico as we have. Mm-hmm. So I've been really fortunate to travel the world because of this band, Mm-hmm. And then I'm also doing it with you guys, and that we never would fight. It was always just fun. We'd you talk shit about everything. It was the greatest,
Where are your favorite places in the world to play? Where are there any places that have been especially good to the Locust or welcoming, or especially hostile for that matter?
Yes, Tokyo.
I mean, all of Japan, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And pretty much every show, like a hometown show, is really fun too. Just anywhere where people are into it. I don't know. It's there's been so many great places. I guess I can't really.
I think a lot of that answer to that question would also be who we were sharing the stage with, because that was something that we kind of struggled with, because we were touring with bands that it just was a really bad idea for us to be on tour with. And you could play whatever city that's rad or whatever, but if you're playing with bands that you don't necessarily feel relatable to, or the audience is kind of tripping out on that, it's more work, and I think once we did the Oops tour, and that just set things straight. We're oh shit, if we play a show and all the bands are on the same level, it's so much better. And I think that, we played in some of the shittiest places, fucking, I don't even know, Iowa or whatever, and whatever. But it was we were playing with Lightning Bolt and Arab on Radar and Get Hustle and Blood Brothers, and that was totally fun. It didn't matter at that point, So going back to the thing about going, where it's been really welcoming. It's like, yeah, I love to go to Japan or parts of Europe, or like Gabe said, like deep into Mexico. Like all these places are really cool to go to. But as far as like the performance, that's sort of, for me, it's sort of a separate thing than the show. It's like I can go travel here with this band and have that be a vessel to do these other things and experience things, but also just to be able to go, you know, the performance is in itself its own thing, I suppose.
Right. I get that.
Yeah, it's like that's the only time. That's when we actually have to work, you know. Besides, like driving, I guess.
Right.
And huffing gear.
Yeah,
It was interesting though,
finding stuff to huff.
seeing how other like cities had shows set up. You know, a lot of it, like back in the day, like in Europe, I just remember being so impressed with like just punk kids in Germany, like having their own, like, yeah, we squatted this place and now we have it. Now we run it and it's like a well-oiled machine as a venue. It's like, fuck, that would never happen in San Diego. Like we barely have the Che. Like that's crazy. And just, you know, it was good to, you know, like traveling and like, you know, kind of being able to kind of step outside of the United States and kind of get a sort of, you know, a wider perspective on the world, you know, but also like from music, from the perspective of like subculture music and like seeing how even that is different. And I just remember like that really opened my eyes to like, just like, fuck, it's like, there's so many different things happening on the planet. And I think it's really like, that was a great byproduct to be able to be exposed to that stuff, you know, over the years.
One aspect of the, you know, everything over there, particularly in Europe, something that we would notice every time we'd go over there, it seemed like, was the sort of everything was much more politically charged. People were just much more politically aware over there. The tide is kind of turning in America, I think, these days, at least a little bit. And I still don't think it compares to Europe in that sense, but there's definitely a lot of struggle happening here in a mainstream kind of sense that I think is arguably different from let's say, you know, 2001 or so, 20 years ago. One element of politicization, though, that you guys always seem to embrace was the resistance against things in the States like Clear Channel. And I wonder if you want to discuss that at all. That was something where I don't think there was a lot of bands actively resisting the influence and the sort of encroaching, a monolithic presence of organizations like that. But you guys were really on the forefront of that resistance, and I think it's admirable. And I think I'm just curious to hear what your thoughts are about that now.
Well, first it was the Dixie Chicks that did it, and then that we sort of like, which is kind of weird that the Locust and Dixie Chicks would ever be in the same sentence, but like,
and for a split record.
But like they got blacklisted because they had said that they were embarrassed or they were not proud of being from the same state as George W. Bush because of the Iraq War. And so then Clear Channel, you know, you have these like gatekeepers that can kind of like, you know, okay, well, you're not going to be on the radio and you're not going to be able to play shows anymore. And so, you know, I think that was kind of like one of the things where it's just like, whoa, we're going to boycott that. And at the time it was really, really, you know, from like a business standpoint, if you're trying to like make a career out of playing music, it's kind of like the stupidest thing you could do from that perspective. It's like, but interesting, because then the Yeah Yeahs would ask us to go on tour. We're like, yeah, cool, yeah, we'll be direct support. That sounds cool. And like, but we're not going to play half of the shows. And so like, there, you know, a lot of people like, you know, booking agents and people would hate us because it was just like, what do you mean there's the direct support and they're not going to play half the fucking shows and they're going to actually play another show the same day in the same city? Are you fucking kidding me? And then, you know, but in the end, you know, years later, it was like, we actually, you know, got a lot of press out of it, I guess. And like people, you know, it's like, oh shit, there's some people taking a stand. You know, we weren't the only ones, but you know, it you know, from that standpoint, in retrospect, it's kind of like, you know, of course, in the end too, it was like there were no WMDs in Iraq anyway. And so that was kind of like years later, it was like, yeah, see? And then, but the thing was like, it ended up being better for us, you know, from the standpoint of like, we got a lot of attention for it. And then, you know, people would ask us to do more things. And I think partially because we took a stand on something like that. And so it's, you know, Clear Channel, I mean, it's kind of changed, you know, and I don't know, it's interesting to think about this idea of like boycotting huge sort of like gatekeepers in the industry. I think another thing kind of right now is like Spotify. And, you know, it's kind of interesting because like they can be looked at as a gatekeeper. And I, you know, I personally, I mean, I wrestle with this thing about, because, you know, there's definitely a lot of people boycotting Spotify right now. And I think, you know, ever since the Music Modernization Act passed, that law that sort of like created the infrastructure to have a set royalty rate, you know, per stream, which is like, so now a stream is like a mechanical reproduction. And so Mechanical Licensing Collective is like the nonprofit, the only entity that will collect and pay those royalties. And so it was kind of like, okay, finally the infrastructure is in place and like Spotify can't, you know, get around it anymore. But of course, like they're fighting it in court. So it's like their true colors have been revealed. And even though like the infrastructure is in place now to potentially fix that problem, they're still, you know, being assholes. And so I don't know. So it's like, you know, there's still gatekeepers. I think what would be cool is like anarchist people kind of like getting jobs at Spotify and like fucking take it down from the inside, or at least gather some intel.
Going kind of back to that Clear Channel and some of those tours that we did, I think there were small wins there in that booking agents would try to find alternatives to Clear Channel venues in a lot of cities, and in certain cases on those Yaz tours and with Phantom Moss, they did sell. So I don't know. I mean, did it affect things in the long term? No, but I'll take the victory, I guess, wherever we can. And it felt good to be able to sort of like change those little things whenever we could, you know?
I bet. Yeah, absolutely. And did you, you know, what was the reaction from the other bands? Like, you know, what did the Yaz themselves have to say about that? I mean, did they admire you guys?
I think they were largely supportive.
Yeah.
I think they were largely supportive. Ultimately, you know, their management and booking and whatever else, you know, probably were somewhat unhappy with it. But like I said, where it was possible, I feel like they accommodated us, and where it wasn't, I guess we just didn't play. And it worked out okay. I mean, I don't feel like throughout the course of all of those tours, there were very many shows missed as a result.
Sure.
I think that the bands that are in question, that like, you know, with the Yaz, I mean, I feel we have a very loving relationship band to band, like that we're family. And so as much as they wanted to tour with us and we wanted to tour with them, they were willing to accommodate us. And even with Phantom Moss, same thing. I mean, I think that we just fit very well with them. And, you know, like Mike Patton jokingly would say like that we're too political and stuff, but, you know, jokingly say that. And because they were just like, whatever, we just want to tour with you. And it was cool to have our friends, bands be willing to sort of put up with our stance on things. But I do think that it might have affected us in certain ways where we passed on tours just because it was the agent wasn't willing to do it. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was one time where Skinny Puppy was trying to get us to tour with them, and we were pretty much into that, and then the agent was like, there's no way, all these shows are Clear Channel. And so we're like, well, there's no way we're going to do it. And then it didn't happen. Right. So, you know, I mean, it is what it is, but the people that we dealt with, it did work out, and they were very accommodating. And it was nice to be able to do that, for sure.
Wow, you guys and Skinny Puppy would have been a wild combination.
Yeah, it would have been cool. I mean, I'm trying to rack my brain here, like trying to figure out like what other ones we passed on, but it did come up every now and then where a tour just wasn't going to be able to be Clear Channel free, you know, or also it was Clear Channel and all ages, so that was like a double whammy to a lot of, you know, booking agents.
What'd you say, Joey?
A tour or a show, you know, I think bands would come through town, maybe ask us to play. It would be at a venue that, you know, we didn't necessarily support. So
yeah,
it would turn up here and there. But I don't know that I'm sure it affected us in a lot of ways, but I don't know that it necessarily changed the trajectory of the band in any significant way. I sort of feel like we were able, just kind of existing in the periphery already, able to sort of do our own thing, our own way anyhow. So I don't know. I kind of feel like we had set that up for ourselves early on, And I think it's just kind of coming out of the environment that we came from. So it was already sort of built in, it's already somewhat political, and there were plenty of independent venues across the country and across the world, really, that were like-minded. And I feel very fortunate to have been a part of those communities in any way, really.
Adrian Bertoloni says, I quit my pizza place job because they scheduled me on the same day as the Locust show in Cleveland. So,
good choice.
Somebody on unemployment. Thanks to you guys. Clayton Blackstock sending a link to an eBay listing for your first record on sale for $39.99, which I think is a compliment. It was great to finally see you guys in Austin on Halloween 2019, the best Halloween.
Yes, that was awesome.
That was very fun. Yeah.
I saw you guys at the House of Blues, the Dillinger Escape Plan. That show was of the Cadena. Not sure what that means, but love this band. A lot of love here on these comments this evening. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That Austin show, that was with your band, Mind Writer.
Yes, indeed.
We played a few shows together. That was cool.
Yeah, it's hard to believe
great.
that was not even 2 years ago now, and because of this, because of the last year, it seems it's weird. It's the time seems much more protracted and distant. It's really peculiar. Question here about the very, very numerous side projects you guys are all involved in. I'm reluctant to say side projects because they're that suggests that they are in some way secondary, and I don't think they necessarily are. I think you guys go in full tilt for whatever you commit yourselves to. But do you all have any plans to tour with any current projects despite the closing of many smaller all ages and DIY venues? Of course, that's predicated on things opening up again. But JP, I know you have a couple of active bands besides the Locust. You want to divulge anything?
I mean, the next thing that the Locust is supposed to play in Arctangent Festival in England in August, but I mean, I'm not holding my breath. It was supposed to be last August and it got rescheduled. So we'll see.
We'll see.
Man, that'd be incredible.
Yeah. So with that being said, if we do play, I think there's probably going to be more than one show in the UK. Or
Was it London?
What's that?
When was the last time you were in England?
It was for the Yaz ATP. I don't know what year that was.
Maybe
2011, 2012,
something like that?
10 years ago, maybe. Yeah, something 2012.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, but anyhow, so yeah, I mean, there's always talk of tour. I mean, before the pandemic, I had 4 different tours cancel. One of them was the Locust. We were supposed to tour with Napalm Death, which would have just been amazing, and that didn't happen. So I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. It is what it is. We'll see what happens.
Maybe you can play with them when you go to England.
I would love to.
Good thinking.
Joey, I noticed your project with David from Refused popped up this week on our good friend Manny's social media feed. You guys have been in the studio, it looks like.
Nice.
No, that was a photograph from, maybe 4 or 5 years ago now.
Oh, wow.
I think
okay.
Manny's been digging in the archives. So
Okay. I thought
David's back in Sweden.
Okay, I thought that might have been the case, but got excited nonetheless. Okay, is that material ever going to see the light of day?
I don't know. I've been working on some of those songs with Kevin Avery, and he and I have kind of been working on a bunch of things that essentially sort of came out of that body of work. So hopefully at some point in the near future we'll be able to kind of do that again as well.
Cool. Joey, question for you. How did Joey end up collaborating with Zach De La Rocha? Any more work coming from One Day as a Lion?
I don't know. Maybe someday. I was actually hit up by John Theodore. He kind of called me sort of randomly and said that they were looking to sort of put together a live version of the band. It had been him and Zach working on the songs and writing and recording, and they just didn't know how to execute it just yet. And I don't know, they kind of hit me up about it, and I don't know, the opportunity to work with both of those guys. I mean,
Sure.
how can you say no to that, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think we thought about how to execute it for a while, and I think maybe there were some ideas that kind of floating around about having 2 keyboard players. And at the time, I think I'd just gotten bass pedals and just sort of was teaching myself how to, I don't know, be an octopus. So I managed to kind of figure out how to do it all just myself, and it was really fun just as a trio, you know. And I feel like it kind of streamlined things in a lot of ways. I don't know. Hopefully someday it materializes again. John's busy with all his stuff, and as is Zach. So I don't know. But,
well, I had the wonderful fortune of seeing you guys' first live show. I think you've only played, what, 4 or 5 shows ever?
we played 3 shows, I think, in Southern California. Most of what we had done was in Japan and Australia. We did tours there. Yeah.
Well, that first show in Eagle Rock was unforgettable. I can tell you that. I'll never forget that.
Thank you.
Yeah. A wild night. Bobby, let's talk about Innes. Sorry, I meant, my bad, twice.
Innes, yes.
Yeah.
As in the secrets of the universe are in us, all of us. We that band, we had an album come out in 2019, so that was before the pandemic, on 31G, of course. Western Spaghettification, and we don't have any shows planned, of course, because of the pandemic. We've only really jammed a couple times, kind of tried to do it safely. We had a video come out like last month for a song called "We Are Our Computer's Genitalia."
Highly recommend it.
I have been working on a solo project actually during the pandemic, kind of. So I came up, like I have a full like album, which is 10 songs, which is under 7 minutes. It's kind of like maybe the craziest stuff I've ever written. I don't even know if I can play it. There's a lot of like electronic stuff going on and layers. But it'll be called Hank, or maybe Hank's. I had this idea for a while ago, and Hank, it's actually, it's like a common Dutch name actually. So like now if you Google Hank, there's like a bunch of Hank musicians, and I was like, oh, damn it, I missed my chance for Hank. So I might just add an S. That'll be Hank's.
All right. Well, I look forward to that. I hope it sees the light of day.
Sometime this year I think I might self-release it. It's short, fun, crazy.
We need to see Bobby shred that saz, says Demetrius.
I don't know if you'd be able to hear it. I don't really have like a good mic set up for that.
No?
I don't know. If there's time, maybe I could try. You
really
want me to?
Put a few of your songs on my Gamma Knife playlist for when I was being zapped with radiation. So thanks for making killer music for radiation zappings.
Oh, what's up, Bryce?
I suspect that's not true. Well, guys, I'm at the end of my cheat sheet, so I wonder if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about or discuss, given the opportunity here, or if there's anything that you need to get off your chest. Anything in the future for any of you that we should know about?
I do, Sonny, because one of the things, aside from the Napalm Death Locust tour being canceled because of the pandemic, was the Valley of the Vapors Fest, where you had bought me a ticket, and I was going to come out there and do like a workshop, like a DIY, how to build your own effects with pure data and Arduinos, and I was really excited about it, and so to get off my chest is like, if it happens again, invite me again, and I will say yes again.
You're at the top of the list, Bobby. I can assure you of that. We would love to have you here. We'd love to have all you guys here, and intend to make that happen one day. Come hell or high water. Anything else we're missing here?
I would like to say something, because I think as much as I am appreciative of you having the Locust on here and giving us this platform, I think that a lot of the existence of the Locust is in part due to your cooperation, not cooperation, your camaraderie with us in the sense that, like, as I don't know, like, I mean, we obviously we put the 10-inch out with Man as a Bastard, and that was whatever. But like when we put out the first EP and then our first LP, and then following that, I mean, you were such a important, pivotal part of the band's existence and the development of the band. And obviously, like, even asking about like our uniforms and stuff. I mean, we didn't know what we were doing, and just like when we were working with you, like you might not have really known that, I don't know, like, I don't want to say importance, but we didn't know what we were doing. We were just doing whatever, but you were definitely part of it. I mean, we considered you part of the band in a sense. And I think that that's something that's, that I just wanted to point out, like you are that person. Like you and like Robin Lennon and Mike Hasong, they're like Locust, like you guys are Locusts, it's just how it is. So.
Well, I appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Thank you.
I don't think your influence, kind of on what was happening, in our musical world can be understated as well. I feel like Angel Hair and the VSS and those bands were, a big part of, I think, what we were interested in as well at the time. And
100%.
I think seeped in there quite a bit. So thank you for that, and I think really just, I don't know, being able to kind of be a part of GSL in that way at that time was really cool. I feel like there was a lot of life and legs to it. So thank you for that. Thanks for giving us the opportunity.
Yeah. You guys are going to get me all choked up here. I wasn't expecting any of this.
You'd always book shows too.
It's true.
Hit us up and ask if, hey, you guys want to go on tour? And you just book this big tour for us. It was awesome,
Yeah.
And then you go with that.
Sure. Yeah, I would not change anything about that time, and I'm incredibly proud to have had anything to do with you guys and your trajectory from such humble beginnings. Angel Hair reunion tour with the Locust, says Alex Maciel. Well, I don't know about that, but a kid can dream. If a Locust called me a Locust, that'd be thank you. It is a high honor. I'm very flattered and moved to hear you guys say all that stuff. So thank you. I certainly wouldn't have endured in the music business as long as I did. I don't think without the what we all enjoyed together early on. It really, for me, sort of created an ideal to sort of continue persevering for. So sort of. I'm not sure if we ever got there again, but
I think in some respects, we created a community, right? We were all a part of a community that was sort of born out of our shared interests. And I don't know. I mean, I think in some respects, maybe like there's the Discord influence in there, right? I sort of feel like there's this sort of DIY ethos that had sort of infiltrated all of our minds, and it was something that we could kind of aspire towards. And it was about sort of setting our own identities within a certain framework of independence. And the creation of that community was very pivotal, I feel like, and was really it was really important to me. Because I mean, there is this sense of sort of being able to step out on our own and do this thing and have some semblance of success, however you want to define it. In my mind, just being able to tour and travel and meet like-minded people across the world, was tremendous success. If the financial success wasn't always there, I mean, there was certainly something that I kind of feel like was even more lasting. And I think that, this band really, it was sort of the most pure expression of that sense of community and that sense of belonging to a thing greater than myself, a thing greater than ourselves. And I feel like that's a special thing, really important. And I sort of feel like it's something to always sort of like strive for, aspire to,
Yeah, I agree. And I think you guys mean, this group means a lot to a lot of people all over the world. And it's I mean, just the amount of comments that we're getting here tonight, the amount of people who've been here watching this is testament to that, and just just how important you continue to be for people, and how excited people are. I think just to see you. I mean, it thrills me to see the four of you guys just together on one screen. And
hi guys.
I'm so glad we got to do this. I'm so glad that that things have worked out the way they have for all of us, and really curious to see what the future holds for this group in particular, and of course all your projects and everything else you involve yourselves in. So I just really want to take the opportunity to thank you all. Seriously, like this has been I honestly didn't really know how it was gonna work. It's the first thing of its kind with more than one guest for me, and there's so much water under the bridge. There's so much we could talk about. And
thanks for bringing us all together again, Sonny.
My pleasure. I hope we get to see you live on stage again before too long, and hopefully sooner than later. And I'm never gonna give up on trying to lure you out a little bit further east than Texas next time. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. I thank you all. I encourage all of our viewers to join me for the next episode of Movers and Makers, where my guest will be a friend of all of ours, your former manager at one point, Molly Newman.
Oh, cool!
All right.
I miss that lady.
I love her.
Yeah.
Yes, as do I. And I love all you guys very much too. I'm very grateful for doing this, and look forward to seeing you soon. And make sure and stop by the chat board here before you leave, because there's some gold.
Not
all right.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Right on. Well, Viva the Locust. I hope 2021 breaks wide open and you guys are back in action soon. And until then, I bid you all farewell, and look forward to seeing you sooner than later.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Sonny.
Thanks,
Sonny.
Much love you guys.
Thanks,
Love
everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you for watching. There's one thing I think I need to get off my chest, Sonny.
Do it. as long as nobody's incriminated.
Okay. A long time ago, you were driving the van.
Oh no.
And we were smoking weed in the back seat. And you were fucking so pissed at us for some reason. And you were yelling at us about something, and we were just like, fuck this. So we looked around the floor of the van and we found a roly-poly, a dead roly-poly, and we put it in the bowl and then put some weed on top, and you totally smoked it. And you were like, fuck, this tastes weird. And we were just like losing our shit. But that was like 20 years ago, so I think we can tell you now.
That explains so much, Gabe. That explains why.
You were so fucking pissed at us, and we don't know why, dude. It was crazy.
Where were we? Do you remember where we were?
I know a lot. We were somewhere on the 5, and we were headed from Los Angeles to Santa Cruz. I think we were playing in Santa Cruz, and we were running late, and the van kept overheating, and you were fucking pissed. And I was in the passenger seat, so you were just screaming at me, and I could see them, all three of them, in the back seat, like laughing as they were packing the pipe for you. And I was like, fuck, I wonder what they're putting in there.
Dave was there too.
I think
it was Dave.
He was with us, yeah. He might have put the bug in or whatever.
I think it was Dave. I think it was all Dave, actually.
Yeah, it was all Dave. Dave did everything.
That is a truly remarkable anecdote, and I can't believe it's taken this long for the beans to get spilled.
Well, it's the perfect place, and because you can't get to us really.
It was a bean. It wasn't a roly-poly. It was a Boston baked bean.
You smoked a baked bean as well, but you also smoked a fucking roly-poly. I remember.
Wow.
It was dead and dried out, so it must have just roasted.
That is.
He cashed it right out.
That is really funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well,
you look kind of upset. I kind of feel
now.
Do you feel better now, Gabe?
Yeah, I do actually. I've wanted to say that for a long time.
Well, I'm glad you were able to. No, I'm not upset. I was trying to, as you started telling that story, you reminded me of something else. I thought you were going to tell a whole different story.
Oh, when you gave Dave and I mushrooms, like
this is all of a sudden. This is yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could have a part two.
Something else.
The
That
Locust
is
After
too
Dark.
Story. I want to hear the story. Sonny.
I thought you were going to talk. I thought what you were going to talk about was when we were in Madrid in Spain, and in the middle of the night. And I don't remember being angry, but I do remember hitting a parked car with the van. And if that person is watching right now, I'm very sorry about the car. But we did a lot of damage to the van, and I thought that's maybe why you guys were. I thought that's what you're talking about. But
I remember that, and I
While we're
remember
on the
wanting to come.
topic of the-
And I remember wanting to
Go
come
ahead.
clean with Grooney, and like you guys didn't want to tell Grooney. And I was like, dude, we have to tell him. And you were adamant, Sonny, about not telling him. And you're like, no, here's the story. And you had the story. And that did not sit well with me. I remember
Grooney,
that.
of course, being our German driver who wasn't driving. He was serenading some ladies in another band and riding in their van. If you remember that. And so I was forced to drive the van, do his job for him, and consequently,
I'm gonna step in here. I'm gonna step in here. You wanted to drive all night because you needed to get weed.
yeah,
And
and
Grooney wanted
was
to drive in the day. So you're
Grooney
like,
was also
fuck you,
straight
I'm
edge.
driving tonight, and you drove us tonight. And Grooney stayed with the band because he was the driver, and he was.
how has your memory suddenly gotten so good?
Dude, my memory has always been pretty good.
I remember once with Yaron where we were in Sweden and you took a detour to
Maybe
Denmark.
we're gonna wind this down.
So that and he woke up and
Not out of
realized that
time.
we were in Copenhagen and freaked out.
Oh, man.
Sure. That's a story.
You're losing.
Yeah, hey, listen, man. Gabe and I were very appreciative at the time, especially. So thank you for doing that. I know Yaron was really bummed. Yaron, sorry, but hey, that was a worthwhile detour.
Yeah, that was one.
It's very possible to make a left turn, to make a wrong left turn, and wind up in another country.
That's true, especially when you're in Malmo, right? You can just cross the bridge
Yes.
and there you are.
Yeah.
And you're losing sponsors by the minute, Sonny. You better cut this soon.
I know. Yeah, we're about to be defunded over here. All right, guys. This has been awesome. Thank you.
All right.
Let's do it again in another decade or so. But
Sounds
until
good.
then, love you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you, Sonny.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.